Good evening, Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here with your Hurricane Outlook and discussion, talking about Tropical Storm Harvey. I'm putting this together at about 20 minutes until 11 Eastern Daylight Time, and the latest from the National Hurricane Center on Harvey has been released, the 11 o'clock Atlantic Standard Time, which is the same as Eastern Daylight Time right now. It's out. So here we go, moving west at 18, winds are still 40, and the headline is Harvey is nearing the island. So that's the stats. I want to get into the discussion here, and let's see who wrote this. This is from Dr. Richard Pash, and we get a couple of paragraphs here, so let's read what he is saying. Let's read what he's saying here. I don't know where that came from. It's late. Anyway, let's get into it. Just a brain blip there. Since an Air Force reconnaissance... Oh, man, I can't even read. Let's just calm down. You can tell that I get excited about this stuff. It is interesting, so I will start over here. Since an Air Force Hurricane Hunter aircraft departed the storm a few hours ago, the cloud pattern of Harvey hasn't changed much. Dvorak intensity estimates from both TAF-B and SAB are 30 knots. Those are different satellite analysis branches. And based on the earlier aircraft measurements, the current intensity is held at 35 knots, or 40 miles per hour. The storm is in a moderate easterly shear environment, which should allow only slow strengthening for the next couple of days. After that, the dynamical models indicate that a decrease in shear should occur. As noted earlier, however, the GFS and ECMWF global models do not show strengthening of Harvey and, in fact, practically dissipate it during the forecast period. This suggests something unfavorable. Something unfavorable in the environment besides shear ahead of the system. Perhaps some drier air or subsidence. Subsidence is sinking air. The official intensity forecast shows modest strengthening and is generally close to the model consensus, which includes the statistical dynamical guidance and the regional hurricane models that do show some strengthening. So that's interesting there. If we move on down, we can see the track, oh my goodness, the track reasoning here. Let's just do this. There we go. One day I will fully understand my annotation software. The motion continues westward at 270, which is basically due west at 16 knots. There is no change to the track forecast philosophy from the previous advisory package. Harvey should remain embedded in the flow on the south side of a strong mid-level ridge. And by the way, that strong mid-level ridge is the reason that this is not going to turn northward and not going to come very close to Jamaica, Cuba, Hispaniola, and certainly nowhere near the Gulf of Mexico or the United States. So this system should continue on a westward track. Near the end of the period, the guidance suggests a slightly more northward motion with some deceleration. So we'll see how that turns out over the coming days. Any more of a northward motion. Man, I just can't talk tonight. So we see here it is not forecast to become a hurricane in its lifespan, as there is this mystery unfavorable element at play. Interesting. So let's take a look at the wide shot. All right, this is the upper level low that's been plaguing the tropical wave over here, I guess you could say, keeping it in check. Here is Harvey. It looks okay for a tropical storm. And then here is 92L. Now these features are small in size overall. And I don't completely understand why they are. Sometimes you get these very large envelopes of energy, and the resulting tropical cyclone is likewise very large. But these guys and gals, whatever, I mean, they're not real. You know what I'm saying here. These weather entities, that's the best way to describe them, are small in size, and so they are going to be susceptible to changes in the environment more so than a larger system. So think of it as like a child, okay, and that child gets pneumonia. That's bad, as opposed to an adult that's healthy, a larger, nourished adult. And so these smaller systems are prone to these environmental conditions and this sort of mystery element that may be hindering development. But at the same time, just like a well-nourished child who goes through their development with the proper nutrition, boom, they can grow up and take advantage of that growth spurt rather quickly, and you have a kid who grows 6 inches over the summer. And so this is obviously a lot quicker scenario, that if the right conditions are available, these systems can develop very quickly, but there is this sort of question mark as to what's going on throughout this region and here through the Western Caribbean as to why this is not forecast to develop very much. Now, this just didn't turn out the way I wanted it to, so I want to go to just a single image, and we're going to do that by clicking that, and we're going to do this, and we should get a nice, beautiful single image. Very good. So this is updated at 2:15 UTC, Universal Time Coordinate, and you can see there's Barbados right there, highlight it in red a little better here, and some pretty deep convective activity headed that way. Now, it's interesting, there is one little band here, but otherwise this has got that circular blob look of clouds. So we're not seeing the spiral bands coming in. It's not well organized like we saw with Franklin, and that's owed probably a little bit to the shear, the fact that it's getting pushed from the east a little faster than it's able to keep up with itself. That being said, though, these bands of rain coming through the Windward Islands here, rotating around counterclockwise, are certainly going to bring periods of heavy rainfall. And like I've said with these previous storms this year with Brett and Don, if you get one of these areas, and let me change my color here to blue so we can see it. If you get one of these areas going up like that deep convection right there, that white color, those are high cloud tops in the atmosphere indicating colder temperatures. And if one of those goes up over you and it rotates across your area, let's say Barbados as an example, you can get some very heavy rainfall in a short period of time and translate those winds to the surface, 40 miles per hour, okay, not too bad, but you can get some pretty gusty winds with something like that in short order when you have the convective blow-ups like that. And those are impossible to model. You can watch the radar from the area as best you can. It's there is some weather radar in the region, and so it's just going to be an interesting night to say the least across not only Barbados and the rest of the islands here to the west from there, St. Lucia and St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and even up towards, I think that's Martinique up there. Check my Google map, make sure that's right. Yep, Martinique, and then Grenada to the southwest. From there, farther to the southwest, probably not as much of an issue for that area. I did want to show you, what's my next package here? This is the GFS ensemble package. Obviously, this is going to go through the Windward Islands here over the next 24 hours. And then this trek all across the Caribbean. Now, normally, we would look at this and say, wow, this is going to have a long time to ramp up. And then by the time it gets over here to Central America, this is going to be a problem, especially considering what's the date? It's 17th of August. It's not June. It's the peak of the hurricane season time. It's ramping up. But again, there's this sort of weird thing happening all throughout this area that's not allowing the system to develop very much, apparently. I guess we're going to see this is going to be a heck of a test. And by the way, this is the GFS ensemble track. And so this is all the different other members of the GFS, not the operational. And so these are different members with different variables to get a different output. What's fascinating to me is how well clustered this is all the way throughout. It's not like, woo, whoa, whatever. You've seen it. This is not that. So that's weird that the operational is just like, I don't see anything out there. And the ensembles are mostly pretty bullish about it. Just, wow. Anyhow, the intensity guidance, there's a pretty steady ramp up overall in the envelope of intensity guidance towards Cat 1 strength. But you can see this AVNI right here. That's the GFS interpolated, if I remember correctly. And that shows weakening and dissipation. So everything from Category 2, from one of the models here, it's hard to tell exactly which one that is. Doesn't matter. To the AVN. All right. And then obviously as this is interacting with land perhaps over here, that's when it starts to really drop off. So a challenge in terms of intensity even over the next 12 to 24 hours. And then the actual track models over here, the different new ones that have come out this year, plus your consensus models, etc. A fairly decent envelope. And it's good to see, like I said, that they're generally clustered in a cone, something like that, and we're not having any taking off to the north. and anything weird like this where you're seeing divergence. I like the convergence of the models, not divergence. That leads to track confidence over time. So let's just take a real quick look here at the weather radar for the area. This is what I could find. I want to refresh it to make sure we have the latest. And this is sort of a mosaic of all the different radars from the area, and we're going through the nighttime hours here. And we're going to speed this up. And it looks like the latest one, going too fast there. We'll stop it at the last one. And we'll go back a little. Back. So 2:30, 02:30 UTC. And let me show you what's what. Now I got to change my color back to red. Barbados, come on, where'd you go? You're in there somewhere. So let's put this into motion so we can see Barbados a little better. There you are. So there's Barbados, and this will let me zoom in on it, I think. Yay, good. So pretty heavy rain moving through Barbados in recent hours right there. The core of the system, whatever of it there is back over here. And you can see the rest of the islands, St. Lucia over here, St. Vincent the Grenadines, Martinique, and then farther to the south and west, Grenada, Trinidad, and Tobago. So scattered cells of rain and a few squalls here and there. You might even see some lightning out there with some of these. But boy, Barbados is going to get a lot of heavy rain out of this as these bands come through. And then just depending on where they track, they can go between the islands or right over one of your islands. And you can get a quick burst of 2 to 4 inches of rain as the system passes by. And that can be problematic, as you can imagine. And just to give you a geographical perspective here, the center of it located roughly over here. And then these are generally the islands that are going to be impacted the most, with some scattered showers moving this way and maybe some fringe effects towards Trinidad and Tobago, but it won't be nearly the impact as to what we're expecting through here. And then once it's in the open Caribbean out here, it won't impact anybody to speak of. So there you go. That's what I know for tonight. No major changes. You're in Barbados, you're in St. Vincent the Grenadines, St. Lucia, etc. Heavy rain, squally conditions, a few gusty winds. The main impact will be the very heavy rain from time to time. It will cause flooding, that heavy rain. Torrential rains coming from these tropical systems. That's never going to go away. That's always going to happen, so you need to be ready for it. And just the very fact that you make sure you're not anywhere on low ground or whatever. That if you are in a flash flood prone area in those different islands, and each island's makeup and geography and the way their river systems are, etc., you know the area. At least I hope you do. And you just got to be ready to act if you have to, especially since this is happening overnight. All right, we'll talk a lot more about 92L and anything else brewing out there in the tropics tomorrow. Again, this second update tonight was focused mainly on Harvey. All righty, that is it from me for tonight. Have a great rest of your evening. Thanks as always for tuning in, you guys down there in the Windward Islands. Thanks for the reports coming in from you, especially from Barbados. I appreciate it. I'll be up fairly late fielding those reports on Twitter, and I can post those and retweet them as often as I can. I do appreciate it. Stay safe doing so. Okie dokes. Thanks again for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com, and we'll talk again on Friday.